welcome back, welcome back. I'd ask you all to make your way in and find your seats. Those of you that are on the live stream, welcome back. Thank you for your patience. My apologies for blocking. Feel bad. Thank you for being on time. Welcome back, welcome back. All right, we're taking a couple of moments for folks to return from the tour. I hope that you all found some of the locations that have been moved about. Yes? I want to give Liz Johnson a shout out for 30 years of service at our college. We appreciate you, Liz. Thank you for your service. We'll miss you. Miss you a lot. All right. As our team continues to join us and file in from the on-campus experience, I just want to thank you all for your enthusiasm, your engagement this morning. It's been just heartwarming for me. Did I remind you all that this is my first time having Convocation on ground? Pretty special, pretty special. So as I promised to you all, our afternoon would end with hearing from one of our greatest advocates, trustees. Trustee Haynes is with us today. And yes, please. And I won't go into introductions now because I know that our Chancellor will, but Chancellor King is here to deliver a message along with staff members from his team, and we're excited to have him on the ARC campus. Let's give them a round of applause. And with that being said, with no further ado, I'd like to bring Trustee Haynes up to the stage to address all of you today. Let's give her a round of applause while she comes up. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. You want this on the stand or you want to hold it?
On the stand.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So what's up? So I know that this may be the first time for all of us to be back here. And I also know that there may be those who aren't with us, but they are virtually. And there is no shame in that. We've learned a lot in the last 2.5 years about virtual. And before I start my formal remarks, I want to say, from my heart to your heart, thank you for everything that you have done these last 2.5 years. We have tried to keep as many students engaged as we possibly could. We have made phone calls. We have changed rules and regulations to do that at the state level. We are continuing to find ways in which to newly engage our students and to let them know we are here for them. And so this is not a turning of a new leaf on life or a new lease on life. It really is a continuation of looking internal to our organization and to our institutions and into our processes to say, what can we do differently? So again, I want to say thank you for opening yourselves up to change. That's what we're doing, that's what we're in. And you are doing it magnificently. So here are my formal remarks. So on behalf of the entire Los Rios Board of Trustees, I'm delighted, as you can tell, to be at American River College to help kick off the fall 2022 semester. And so I want you to know that, yeah, let's give us. So as a 23 trustee, year trustee for Los Rios, there's two things that I enjoy the most. And in most cases, I have not missed one. But I've missed, so Convocation I go to. Now, it may not always be at American River College, but I go to Convocation, and I go to graduations. And it may not be at American River College. I've tried to, in that 23 years, I've tried to kind of make myself go to each one so that I could get to savor what's happening on your college. But those are the two things that I love to do the most. So you say, well, why Convocation? Because it's an opportunity to renew ourselves for the work that we're doing. It's an opportunity for us to come together, to plan, and to think anew of why we're here and what it is we're doing. Why graduation? Because the fruits of our labor walk across that stage. It is a reflection of the work that you do each and every day. Whether you're in front of the classroom, whether you're in an office, whether you are, and whether you are actually present on ground. This is what you do every day. So for me, I get to see the students who are so excited. Regardless of age, they are excited about walking across the street, the stage, because they have done something impactful, not only for themselves, but for their families. And so I get to see that joy. I get to see that accomplishment. So my excitement is heightened because so many more of our students and our faculty and our staff are now back on campus. And it's really important because some of our students really engage by being back on campus. We have other students who they thrive in an online environment. And so we have got to be adaptive and we've got to be flexible. I know many of you have been looking forward to the return to some normalcy. And at the same time, there's still an understandable amount of trepidation about what that means. The pandemic has taken an immense toll on all of us, on our college and district, but most importantly, on our students. But I stand here with you today as someone who is overcome with optimism and hopefulness for the semester that lies ahead of us. Many of you are here in person today, and as I said earlier, some of you are watching this virtually online. You're streaming from your computers, but, and I think that's an important reminder that our students too will come to us from very different places and in different ways. In these last 3 years, we have begun to transform and change the ways in which we work in service of our students. We are teaching classes and delivering services in person and online in ways that we thought impossible just a short time ago. This is an incredible testament to all of you. I say that because faculty, staff, the college, and the district leadership, you are the ones that have adapted so creatively and quickly to the evolving needs of our students. And of course, let's not forget just how remarkable our students are. No matter what the world throws at them, and a lot has been thrown at them, they keep moving forward, keep working toward their dreams, their aspirations, and their goals. Our students need us more than ever, and our unwavering commitment to our equity work, to creating inclusive and welcoming environments, and a sense of belonging, and doing everything in our power to help our students be successful has never been more critical. So, from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of all of my colleagues on the Los Rios board, I'd like to thank you again for all and everything that you do every single day to remove barriers that stand in the way of our students' success. And with that, I'd like to, and it is my pleasure to welcome our Chancellor, Brian King, to the stage.
Wow, isn't it great to be together? Everybody stand up for a second. Just take a deep breath and let it out and take a seat. It's been a long time since we've been able to come together and look each other in the eye as three-dimensional human beings. And there are times when we're still going to be faces on a box on a screen, but it is so wonderful to have an opportunity to come together as people and look each other in the eye, and depending on your comfort level, give a fist bump, a handshake, or a hug. It's been too long, and it is a wonderful opportunity to come back and see those of you who are here in the room today. As Trustee Haynes said, hello to everybody who's watching streaming right now, or those of you who are watching this in recording later on, maybe in the comfort of your home in your pajamas or shorts. A reflection of the world we're in today. We realize there are a lot of different ways to communicate, and we want to do them all well. It's hard for me to believe that I've been Chancellor for 10 fall convocations. 10 fall convocations. Thank you. It's gone fast. And I've been to 9 out of 10. Last fall I was not at Convocation. I'll share with you a little bit why I wasn't here last fall and where I was. And I'm going to share where I was, not because I'm unique or special, but because what I went through is very questions that we need to answer together as we prepare for the world that is ahead of us. In so many different ways, every single one of us has faced some form of trauma in the last few years. And after we face a trauma, we're faced with a choice. How will we move forward after the trauma happens, or even when the trauma continues? Will we move forward with resentment and despair, or will we choose to find gratitude and hopefulness? That is the choice that each and every one of us face after dealing with trauma. Now for me, today's a bit of an anniversary. Almost a year to the day, last year in August, I ended up in the hospital. So unexpectedly, I had a breakthrough COVID case, and initially thought everything I read, well, it's going to be like a cold and I'll be better. And I had monoclonal antibodies. Everything they threw at me didn't work in addressing a COVID-related case of pneumonia. And many of you know that with COVID-related pneumonia, it's not responsive to antibiotics, so it's very scary when you can't breathe. And by the time I went to the emergency room, my oxygen was well below when they say you should go to the emergency room. So I didn't have an idea what a normal oxygen level was until last summer. But when you're in the mid-80s, it's not good. And when you can't breathe, it's not good. So I spent several hours in the emergency waiting room. Last summer, the emergency rooms were filled with a huge number of people who, when the Delta variant was present, were really sick. So I spent 5 hours surrounded by people of all ages, including kids who were really sick. And I'll never forget the moment when the nurse came and said, "Do you think you can walk from the waiting room to the ER treatment room?" Well, I could see it. It was right over there. And I said, "Well, yeah, I think I can." And then I started to stand up and I realized that I couldn't, that I was at a point where I just couldn't walk from the emergency room to the treatment room. And what a relief it was to finally have oxygen and begin the treatment process. And the tremendous love and respect I have for the people in the hospital who took care of me during that time. And where is President Dixon? Where did Melanie go? Melanie, come up here for a second. I know Melanie has shared with some of you, but she's a fellow traveler, another person who was very ill from COVID and is still struggling with some of those lasting impacts. So although if you've had COVID, it affects us all differently. But Melanie, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and the grace that you have dealt with the trauma, and also, the other traumas that Melanie has endured, the horrible racist threats that she endured with class and dignity. So thanks for being a role model for me and how to respond to trauma. Thank you, Melanie.
Likewise.
You're lucky to have Melanie as your president. As I said, I'm sharing the trauma, and Melanie agreed to allow me to talk about what she's been through, not because we think we're special or unique, but because the traumas that we've endured are representative of the kind of traumas that all of you have endured in one form or another. Your trauma may have been COVID-related. You may have dealt with COVID. You may have been ill or dealt with family members who were severely ill, and many of us have lost loved ones to COVID. Your trauma may have been that the life you knew was suddenly snatched away from you very quickly without much warning. A life that had become comfortable suddenly was replaced by a very different life. The trauma may have been loneliness. You may have suddenly been cut off from people, or at the other extreme, you may have gone through a period of months where you never had a single moment by yourself, which also can be traumatic. The trip of a lifetime may have been canceled, or a wedding or a lifelong event either postponed or canceled because of the pandemic. You may have never wanted to teach a class online, and suddenly all of your teaching responsibilities were taking place through a computer screen. For you, the trauma may be related to what is happening in the communities or the world around us, and the experiences of communities of color, the LGBTQ+ community, and others who are still sadly fighting an uphill battle every day for respect, safety, and equality. I very much recognize that the trauma and discomfort caused by the pandemic or whatever else you've been going through by no means is completely a thing of the past. We're continuing to do our best to balance a return to face-to-face interactions with the safety and welfare of our students and employees. Very few decisions in the last few years have been easy, and many more difficult decisions will have to be made together in the coming months and the year ahead. The traumas of the pandemic were not a matter of choice, and other traumas you've endured are often prompted by external circumstances over which we don't have control or choice. But when confronted with trauma, all of us do have a choice in how we will respond to that trauma we have endured and maybe continuing to experience. The choice is to respond with gratitude and hope, or give in to the temptation to be pulled toward resentment and despair. So the choice may seem obvious. Of course we would go to the light, but I have to tell you from my personal experience in the last year, it's not easy to move towards gratitude and hope. There have been times where I've had a pity party and said, what did I do? I tried to do the right things. I was vaccinated. Why am I fighting for my life in a hospital room with no one around when no one else is allowed in, and that lonely experience that some of you have experienced as well? And even now, a year later, there's a part of me that is questioning the scarred lungs from pneumonia. When will I ever be the same? And Melanie, I don't know if you had the experience, has anybody seen one of these in the last year? So I remember the days early on where they set the thing right here, and I couldn't get there. So it just takes time. And are some of you curious if I can get this thing to the top of the? Okay, take a deep breath with me, and we'll get a sense. Okay, everybody on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. No, we need to exhale, then inhale. So exhale at the count of 3, then take a big breath in. So sometimes it's not as easy to measure the steps forward, and sometimes the physical steps are easier to measure than some of those emotional scars. So all of us are finding ways to see where we are in the journey towards gratitude and hope. And as I said, I'm not immune from the tendency sometimes to be resentful and not make the right choice. But when I do the hard work of honestly confronting what I am going to do with the life that at one point not that long ago seemed like it might be near its end, I recognize choosing gratitude and hope is the right choice for me. I also strongly believe that I have much to be grateful for and thankful about. And secondly, for all of us, there's way too much evidence in the world around us today that resentment and despair lead to divisiveness and bitterness. And that's not the way any of us want to live, however many months or years of life we had ahead of us. So let me start with gratitude. And I apologize if I might get emotional a bit when I think about the bravery and courage of the people who took care of me and other seriously ill people, and still do, at risk to their own personal health and safety. The courage is inspiring of the people who are willing to risk their own health to take care of others. I'm also thankful to everyone who's reached out to me in the past year with encouragement and all the little things like the DoorDash coupon when it was a big task to go to the mailbox, so being able to have food delivered was a wonderful thing. So those acts of kindness are unforgettable. As Chancellor, I'm grateful how our faculty and staff, all of you here today, have rolled up your sleeves during these difficult times to serve our students. I'm amazed at all you have done, often in a remarkably short period of time, with circumstances sometimes changing what seemed to be like, if not daily or hourly, very frequently. And that continues to be the case. Where circumstances change, we have to adapt and be nimble. I'm also very hopeful for the future of ARC and Los Rios. During the pandemic, we pivoted to remote classes and services back on Friday, March 13th, 2020, and we faced a cascading series of crises since. Without exception, we have worked together to try to make good decisions. Our faculty and staff have so many incredible accomplishments, converting almost all of our instruction to remote education in a matter of days. We found a way to provide remote counseling and academic services and other important services in record time. We've learned how to use technologies like Zoom to work together in new and different ways, and we have responded to challenges of social justice and equity, like the murder of George Floyd. So much great work has happened, it could be easy to forget how far we have come during these difficult times. And I want to be clear that I know none of this happens accidentally or automatically. It has taken your extraordinary hard work, creativity, and oftentimes a leap of faith and trust in one another. So as we move forward to what is coming as far as more in-person interactions and services, I'm hopeful we will resist that strong pull of resentment and despair as we answer an important question that I'm sure is on your mind. Now that we're here, what's next? What's going to come next? So sometimes people in positions like I am will then tell you the three-part answer to what's next as if they know exactly what's going to come. And I'll be honest with you, as I've always tried to be during my time as Chancellor, and the honest answer is, I don't know exactly what's next. We know to expect the unexpected, but we do have a sense of some questions we need to ask and answer together. So I want to share 3 questions with you today and encourage all of you, both here in ARC on campus today and those of you watching live or watching recorded, give me some thoughts about what you think the answers are to these questions. Whether, if you want to shoot an email to me, it's easy to remember. I'm kingb@losrios.edu, not Queen Bee, but King Bee. So I'm interested in hearing from you what the answers are to the 3 questions that we're going to explore together today. The first question, what do our students need us to be that is different from what we were before the pandemic? So the first question, what do our students need us to become? The second question, you're aware the pandemic has accelerated a long-term trend of declining enrollment at community colleges. So the second question, where did our students go? Who did we lose? And how do we get them back? How do we restore that access? The final question, let's think about how the pandemic has impacted the way we work together and for our students, and the impact of faculty and staff moving forward on how we work and where we work and when we work. So the first question, what do our students need us to become? From a student standpoint, a lot has changed in the last 3 years. If you go back to January of 2020, only about 10 to 15% of our enrollment was online. So 85 to 90% of enrollment was on-ground in-person classes. A student who needed to see a counselor or other services was expected to make an appointment and come to our college campus. Most of our services, including financial aid and admissions and records and many other important services, were provided overwhelmingly on-ground and in person. Everything changed back on Friday the 13th in March of 2020 when we quickly pivoted to remote instruction and services. Now in the coming months, we will have an opportunity to evaluate the dramatic changes for students that were necessitated by the pandemic. If we're honest, some of these changes were long overdue and should have happened before we had to make those changes. One thing we know for sure is that time is the enemy. Time is the enemy of our students. A student who is working or caring for a sick child or an aging parent simply does not have the time to get on light rail or a bus or drive a car or walk or ride a bike, come meet with us, and then repeat that cycle of getting on the bike, walking home, getting in the car or bus, waiting for a light rail and going home. They don't have time to do that the way we were asking them to do in many instances. So whenever students benefit from remote services, we need to provide outstanding options that are the gold standard of service. And it's not either or. It's not just remote or online. It's not just in person. We need to really ask our students and listen to their answer about how we can meet them where they are. And the answer will involve improving whatever we do, whether it's in person or remotely, in providing services. Students of color and first-generation students simply have less time to seek the services they need to enroll and secure financial aid, among other difficult, complicated steps involved in becoming a student. And many of you have already been involved in our important work to redesign financial aid and admissions and records. We will continue to do everything we can to reduce barriers for our students in accessing vitally important student services. So great work underway, great work completed in making services more accessible to our students. With respect to how our students want to access classes, the pandemic has had a dramatic impact on the modality of instruction. Before the pandemic, as I shared earlier, overwhelmingly on-ground instruction, and it seems like ancient history now, but before the pandemic hit, we were having discussions that were spirited and at times contentious about whether we should expand online offerings for our students. The sudden unexpected necessity to pivot to remote instruction back in March of 2020 changed everything. As we begin the fall semester, student demand for remote instruction continues to be at an all-time high. Generally, online classes are filling much more quickly than our on-ground classes. Now, I and no one else knows what will happen in terms of student demand for online education in coming semesters and in the coming years. it does seem unlikely that the demand for online instruction will decline dramatically, especially in the short term. Some students are choosing to learn online based on valid health concerns. Other students who are working or caring for family members, for them, remote instruction may be the only way that they have to access higher education. So we need to provide a pathway for students who have barriers to participating on ground in instruction. And now we have a wealth of data to review and analyze about how students are doing in an online environment. And together, we are committed to making sure we meet the needs of all of our students in the classroom, whether that classroom is right here on campus at ARC or wherever they are through the use of technology. We will face the difficult question of how to balance what students want with what is best for their success. In this new environment, we must make sure that we meet our students' needs both in on-ground and online classes. We need to find the space to have the vitally important conversation, recognizing that students will vote with their feet. And I think, President Dixon, you get the credit for noting that students are sometimes voting with their fingers now in a remote environment with where they click when they decide how they want to pursue their education. And the focus always has to be on providing outstanding teaching and learning. So the second question, where did our students go? Who is gone? And how do we restore access? How do we get those students back? Now, I know you are aware that the pandemic accelerated rapidly a decline in enrollment in community colleges at all 4 of the Los Rios colleges, at every community college in the state of California, and at most community colleges across the United States. Enrollment decline has been precipitous at community colleges. The amount of students who have not enrolled at ARC or one of our 3 other colleges is truly staggering. You may be a bit surprised to know that our overall enrollment is down more than 20% from where we were before the pandemic. And unfortunately, the decline has not yet stopped. Today, we're down between 5 and 10% from where we were last fall. So the decline in enrollment is not yet in the rearview mirror. Now, one reason the massive nature of the enrollment decline might be a bit of a surprise to you is that for the first time in the history of California community colleges, the rapid decline in enrollment has not yet impacted funding of our colleges. In fact, because of the confluence of several unprecedented factors, state funding is at an all-time high for our colleges, and the decline in enrollment is at an all-time low. This is a moment. We should enjoy this brief moment for our ability to prudently provide large retro payments and ongoing salary increases, and let's thank Trustee Haynes and our Board of Trustees for making really sound fiscal decisions. But we have to recognize this is a moment that is very, very unlikely to be sustained. Sooner rather than later, declining enrollment will negatively impact our state funding. And to be very clear, the primary reason we focus on enrollment and access is not because of the negative impact declining enrollment will inevitably have on our budget. We focus on expanding access because our colleges provide the pathway to a better life for tens of thousands of students we serve every semester. Let's now talk for a few moments about where our students have gone. A lot of theories about that. Who we lost, we have a pretty good understanding of who those students are and the difficult work of how we will increase access in the future. So everybody's an expert on why enrollment has declined, a lot of different theories. Some point to the expansion of low-skilled jobs with high wages. So every place you go, you see signs at places like In-N-Out for an $18 an hour job with no skill or training. So there are other places where students are going instead of coming to our colleges. Unlike during the Great Recession in 2008, the state and federal government provided billions of dollars to allow people to stay at home who during previous times might have sought higher education as a way to access state and federal financial aid and prepare for a job after the downturns. Another alternative for our students that may in some ways be invisible is the fierce competition taking place for students from online providers from outside the state of California. There are, the online providers have increased the number of students they are serving in our service area while our enrollment has declined. And many of you are familiar with some of the large national online providers, including Southern New Hampshire University, Western Governors University, University of Phoenix, and Arizona State University. Southern New Hampshire and Arizona State in particular, their enrollment has exploded during the pandemic as they were prepared to provide easy pathways into online education in a way that others in higher education have struggled to follow the model of how to serve students in the online space as well. So we don't know all the answers about where our students have gone, but we have a good deal of data about who the students are who have not enrolled during this period of rapidly declining enrollment. As you might expect, the most negative impact has been, as it unfortunately always seems to be, on students of color, low-income students, and first-generation students. Each of our colleges will continue gathering the demographic information about the students who have gone, and we'll work together to figure out how we can reverse the trend of declining enrollment. So what will we do to restore the access lost during the pandemic? Our shared focus will be on equity-informed strategic enrollment management, and this will require a total team effort. So how many of you think you have a role to play in restoring the access that's been lost during the pandemic? How many of you think that there's a job for you? And if your hand isn't raised, it should be. And most of you recognize that it's going to take a team effort. It's going to take everyone committed to addressing what you can do in your area of American River College to address the loss of enrollment. Enrollment losses or gains are not the sole responsibility of the instruction office, Frank, here at ARC. It's not simply a matter of outreach or marketing or of any one part of our organization. And as we're parsing through the data, we're seeing that the number of new students applying has declined, but the retention rates have declined more rapidly. So part of stemming the trend towards declining enrollment is going to focus on what can we do to keep the students who do find their way to American River and our other colleges. Every part of a student's experience at our colleges impacts enrollment, and we need a holistic mentality to address this challenge. I encourage you to actively participate in our efforts to recapture lost students, as well as our efforts to increase retention rates for students who have already enrolled. So the first two questions have focused appropriately on our students. What do we need to become after the pandemic to meet our students where they are? And the second question, why has enrollment declined? Who has left us, and how do we restore access to the Capital Region through American River College and the 4 Los Rios colleges? The next question, what will work look like in this year and years to come? Just as remote services for students were uncommon before the pandemic, so was remote work for most of us in this room. The expectation had been unchanged for many decades that the idea of going to work involved getting up in the morning, getting on some form of transportation, coming to work, and then going home at the end of the day. And how that work happened and what we did had not changed much in many instances from the 50s, 60s, or the 70s. And overnight, the pandemic dramatically changed or expanded our ideas of what it means to work and where we can work. And I don't know about you, but it feels like my job has changed in some ways more in the last 2 or 3 years than in the previous 20 years, even though my title hasn't changed and my job description hasn't changed. My office is pretty much anywhere where there's an internet connection and a phone or a computer. This new world of work anywhere, anytime, like everything in life, has advantages and disadvantages. Our work is now less bound by where we are and what time it is. That's the good news. What's the bad news? Our work is less bound by where we are and what time it is. In a lot of ways, the workday seems to never end for some of you, and the idea of a weekend can be more of an illusory construct than ever before. The opportunity to work remotely has created wonderful opportunities. How many of you miss a commute on days when you are working someplace other than at the college campus? So the highways are less crowded. There have been benefits to limiting the long commute. On the other hand, all of us miss interactions like we're experiencing for those of us who are here today in person. And we may see at times a loss of collaboration and at times a lessening of collegiality. How many of you have participated in a Zoom meeting sometime in the last year or two where you quietly wondered if someone might have behaved a little differently when they said something pointed or harsh, if they might have acted a little differently if they were in the same room looking eye to eye with the person that they criticized or for whom they may have offered that snarky comment in chat? So we have to recognize that we can't allow technology to lead to a loss of humanity and civility. We need to treat each other with respect and dignity. Now, I'm thinking about the people who have been here throughout the pandemic, and you saw some of the folks who were setting up. Can everybody who's outside the room who worked on ground throughout the pandemic? So you think about custodial, grounds, our police. Let's give a round of applause to everybody who worked on ground to keep our colleges operating. So for those who were on ground throughout the pandemic, they kept our colleges operating smoothly. So we really appreciate. Thanks to all you did, and for everyone who has been on ground a substantial amount of time throughout the pandemic. We just could not have kept our colleges running and served our students without your commitment. So what will work look like in years to come? Moving forward, we want to maintain that the key is to build upon the trust that exists. We've trusted employees to get the job done, whether the work is happening in person or remotely, and that trust will be a cornerstone as we contemplate what work is best completed remotely, what work can be completed in a hybrid form, sometimes in person and sometimes remotely, and some work that is best completed on ground and in person. And in every instance, the primary question is what is best for our students, and how do we balance that with what is best for us when those two goals may be at odds? We may have to make some sacrifices in doing what's best for students in resolving what work will look like in the future. So as we prepare for the start of the fall semester, something is going to happen this semester that we haven't even thought about, right? That something totally unexpected will knock us off stride for a minute or two, and we'll do what we've done the last 2 years. We'll adapt, and we'll come together, and we will respond to the unexpected challenge. We all expect the unexpected, and I look forward to digging deeper into some of the tough questions that we've explored today as we get ready to answer the question, what is next for ARC and Los Rios? And again, the three questions we briefly explored today: what do our students need us to become? Where have our students gone? Who have we lost and how do we get them back? And what will work look like in the months and years that follow? The exploration of these questions together in many ways is the most important work that we will do together this year. As the saying goes, it's often about the journey, not the destination. So I, again, welcome your thoughts and suggestions about what the answers are to these questions, and also what other questions we need to be asking together. I do not doubt for a moment that our work together to unpack these questions will continue to come from a place of not just gratitude and hope, but also kindness and caring for each other. The trauma we have all endured over the past years has left us vulnerable, and acknowledging and appreciating that vulnerability can be the key to coming together to do what is best for our students. I want you to just pause for a second and look to your left and right and look around you and think about the reality that whoever is near you has undergone a trauma. You may know a lot about that depending on who is around you, or it may be a trauma that you could not imagine or have no idea that that person has endured. So we don't always know what our students, what those around us are going through. And that's why we need open hearts and minds as we do this work together. One final thought about how we can survive another challenging year together. And as I share this thought, I'm going to ask Faryal Saeed to come forward. Where is Faryal? I know she's shy, and I don't want to put her on the spot. So, Faryal, if you'll just stand up for a second. Yeah. And I want to share, Faryal did something very kind at a meeting this week where many representatives from ARC and all of our colleges are going to Ghana on an educational mission in September. And as people were sharing artifacts about why that had meaning, she did something really special and really kind, that she gave this drum to me as a representation of the culture that we were going to visit and as a powerful, tangible object of her appreciation for the people in the room and our commitment to serving our students and learning more about one another. So this is the sort of example of kindness that just is so inspiring, and I just want to thank you for modeling that sort of kindness and thought. I appreciate you so much, so thank you. If we focus on gratitude and hope, and I know that's what Faryal, that's how she lives, her focus is on thankfulness and hopefulness, the result will be this sort of kindness to each other, and it doesn't always have to be represented in an object. It may just be a kind word of encouragement in a text, and an expression of appreciation for something that you've taken for granted, and your leaders who have made hard decisions, in addition to criticizing, to occasionally say, hey, I know you are enduring a lot of criticism, and the kind thing is to say, I don't agree with you, but I appreciate that we have to make hard decisions together. And kindness doesn't mean that we always agree. By no means does kindness mean that we shouldn't have robust discussions about issues that we care deeply about and may have differences of opinion. So kindness simply means interacting in a way that recognizes the humanity of the other person and understanding that everyone has endured trauma, whether we know exactly what their personal trauma is or not. So I just want to conclude by thanking you for your kindness today in sharing part of your Friday morning with me. And I look forward to all of us together charting a course to answer that question, what's next for American River College and Los Rios? And I know, I'm hopeful, I'm thankful because of the evidence I've already seen, and very hopeful we will continue to respond to the needs of the students in the region as we have for more than a generation. So have a wonderful rest of the day and a great start to the semester starting tomorrow and Friday. Take care, everybody.
I'd ask the staff at the district office to stand up and be recognized, please. Thank you for joining us today. Gabe Ross, Jamie Nye, Paula Allison, Sonia Ortiz Mercado, Carrie Bray, Jake Knapp, and of course our very own Tammy Montgomery and Mario Rodriguez. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you all. If you can stay for lunch, please feel free to, and I know that I am the thing that's standing between all of you and lunch. So for those of you that are streaming, once again, you're missing out on the food, but we wish you were with us. We hope you enjoyed the Convocation Fall 2022. I want to acknowledge the delegation that's going to Ghana that was highlighted, and I want to thank the Black Faculty Staff Association, the Los Rios District, and of course many of you. Can our delegation that's present today please stand up? Members that will be attending, please stand up. Thank you so much for representing us, going and learning and coming back and bringing insight so we can continue to do the great work of our students. And then finally, as it relates to appreciation, we are going to appreciate those that have done the walk around and find spaces. We got a couple of raffles for y'all. Come on up here, Koo. Kuvang has also been a really huge part of coordinating the delegation, as well as Dr. B.J. Snowden, so thank you both. And in the forum of appreciation and inclusion, thank you to our interpreters. We appreciate your support throughout the program. We appreciate all of you, and now Ku has some money to give away because that's what she does. After that, we want you all to continue to break bread with a delicious lunch that we coordinated for you, and I appreciate your grace, I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate the love that you extended to me since my arrival. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is the best part of my job is I give out money. So for those of you who participate in the activity, where can I find it? Basically, we have 4 gift certificates, Visa gift certificates to give out, gift cards actually. And this is going based on how many areas you visited. So starting from the 4th place, the person here visited all except for 5. I'm sorry, but I may pronounce this wrong, but is it Udal Hijazi? Is that it? So give $25 right here, right? Don't leave yet. Okay. Then the next one, the 3rd one, here we go. Elizabeth Coleman. Who's that? And 25. All right, here we go. Now, this person here, its last 2 is tied with 100% that they visited both areas. However, now I'm going based on who turned it in first. All right, so the second runner-up is Linda Zarzano. At $50. All right, and the last person is $100. You guys ready? Visit all areas. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but here we go. Laddie Liz Lee. VLADISLAV. Last name is L-I, Lee. Ah!
So speaking of gratitude, Linda Zarzana wants to contribute her gift card to the Beavers Care Program. Thank you so much for your gratitude. With that being said, we have wrapped up Convocation Fall 2022. I appreciate and adore all of you, and now you may go break bread with one another at lunch. Thank you so much, and enjoy the semester.